What's up, everyone? I'm Sophia Pasternak, an award-winning author and mental health professional, and this channel is all about the intersection where writing meets psychology. I also post stuff about my author journey, baking bread, and outdoorsy stuff. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you're notified when I post a new video. So today's schema is insufficient self-control or insufficient self-discipline. And this is basically the belief that being uncomfortable is unbearable. Characters with this schema lack the ability to restrain their emotions and impulses, or the lack of ability to tolerate boredom and frustration. Those with this schema emphasize short-term gratification over long-term goals. They also prefer to avoid any kind of discomfort, such as physical pain, confrontation, and responsibility, even at the expense of personal fulfillment or integrity. This may manifest as an addiction, but this is not necessarily the coping that the schema causes. Those with this schema may seem not to learn from past negative consequences of bad behavior either. So the schema may begin in childhood due to parents or other attachment figures never forcing the character to do something difficult or boring, and so this character never learned how to manage their boredom or impulsivity. So before we go any further, if you haven't watched my schema overviews video, go do that right now. Because now we're going to get into kind of the responses into schema triggers. And the first response we're going to talk about is overcompensation, which is the reaction that the opposite of the schema is true. So in this case, which is I cannot handle being bored, I cannot handle being uncomfortable. This is I'm fine being bored and uncomfortable. I can be so self-controlled you won't even believe it. So they will attempt intense effort to complete a project or exercise self-control. And they become very overly self-controlled or self-disciplined to kind of make up for this. Avoidance, the avoiders avoid. The schema does not exist. So these characters don't work, they drop out of school, and they have absolutely no long-term goals. These are the people, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 6 months? And they're like, man, I don't know. So this is them. They absolutely cannot make any kind of, but honey, my dog's chewing on her own foot. So if you're hearing little snorfs, that's her. That's Sansa. Sansa, you look real ridiculous right now. You sure do. So yeah, that's these people, the avoiders. They just, nope, I cannot handle boredom, so I'm just not going to put myself in a position where I could possibly get bored. So they only do things that they think are fun. So they're not going to work, they're not going to go to school, they're not going to do anything challenging or potentially that will cause them any sort of discomfort because they're just not going to deal with it. And the surrenderers, the schema is true, so they just succumb to it. They perform boring tasks with complete carelessness. They will lose control of their emotions. They will eat, drink, gamble, do all kinds of things to excess because they don't want to control themselves. And if something challenges them, if they have a difficult task they're having to do, they just give up on it. I don't want to do it, you know. I can't, this task is too boring, I can't even handle it, so off they go. So now we will talk about the lie, the want, the truth, and the wound. So the lie is the schema. What is your character's fundamental incorrect belief? And in this case, it would be, once I start to feel angry, I can't control it, there's nothing to be done. I can't handle being bored. I get bored so easily and it's awful. I can't stick to resolutions. I tell myself I'm going to do stuff and then I just can't do it. I can't hold back from showing others how I really feel, no matter what the cost. I'm just being honest. Or are you, failing to exact any kind of self-discipline and you're just going off? So now the want, what your character thinks they need to be happy. And in this case, do anything I can to avoid being uncomfortable, to avoid being bored, to avoid challenging people, to avoid having people challenge them, any of that. It all makes me uncomfortable. I can't handle it, so I will do whatever I can to get out of that situation. Don't chew on my bookshelf. So the truth is what your character actually needs to be happy. And in this case, it's something along the lines of being able to recognize the value of long-term goals over the temporary satisfaction of immediate gratification. So they need to be able to exercise self-control. They need to be able to exercise self-discipline. Because without either of those, you're just kind of flapping in the breeze and whatever happens to you. And there's nothing you can do to change the course of action. And the wound is what caused this belief in the first place. And you don't need this in your narrative, but I really like to know it behind the scenes so I can create kind of a deeper character. Don't chew on just choose on everything. So now is the time in the video where you grab a piece of paper, you get some Post-it notes, you open up your Word document, you do whatever you do to write stuff down, and I want you to write down what your relationship or what your character's relationship with the lie is. So up there I kind of gave some examples, but so what's the lie, what's the schema, how are they relating to it personally? Because 100 people can have the same schema and they all relate to it in a different way. They all have a different thing in their life that caused it, and they all have different ways of coping with it. So are they an overcompensator? Are they an avoider? Are they a surrenderer? Pick one of those and then kind of pick how they will react to their schema being triggered. Write that down. Gotta itch my eye while you're doing that. I'm petting my puppy. All right, so now that that's done, I want you to write scenes that could enforce this lie, or ideas for scenes that could enforce this lie. Make a list of things that could happen that makes your character go, you know what, totally right. Like, boredom is so unbearable and I can't handle it. Anything, or discomfort, anything that makes them uncomfortable being just the absolute worst and just reinforces that they can't handle it. And this could come in the form of they don't want to have an angry outburst about something, but they do anyway because they just can't control themselves. And now I want you to write down examples of things that could happen that challenge this lie. So, you know, something boring happens and the world doesn't end. You're very cute. That's why you're still alive. So save that document, save those sticky notes or however you wrote that down, and kind of save it for that rainy day when you're stuck in the second act or you're coming back through doing some cut edits. And as you are writing, if you get kind of stuck in the second act and you don't know what to do next, get this list out and go, okay, I'm gonna write a scene that challenges the lie. Here we go, and pick one and off you go. And you might not keep it, you might not use it permanently in your manuscript, but it's something that can kind of shake up your brain and maybe get something going that you are going to keep in your manuscript. Don't bite me. Or like what I do is when I'm coming through and I am doing structural edits and kind of cutting and determining, do I need this scene? Do I need this scene? Does this scene challenge the lie? Does this scene enforce the lie? Does this scene have anything to do with the lie? It doesn't. It's dead weight. I don't need it. Because if you have scenes that are going on that aren't serving your character's arc, if you have multiple somebody's arc, it has nothing to do with your character's development. Like, honestly, why is it here? Why is it there? Justify to me why you need this scene here. Oh, it's cool. I invented a new planet and I wanted to show the reader that this planet is. Nobody cares. Make the beauty of the planet have something to do with your character's arc. It has to mean something. Like, honestly, make it mean something. So yeah, that's how I use these. And I think that it's a good way to kind of cut the fat, trim the fat off of your manuscript. But that's it. I'm all done. That was the insufficient self-control or insufficient self-discipline schema, or the idea that any kind of discomfort is unbearable and you cannot handle it. So good luck writing, and remember to wash your hands. Remember that Black Lives Matter, and have a great day.